And we are live. What's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome back for another great week of Amplified Nevada Native Youth. I'll do my introduction a little bit later, but for any newcomers who don't know Amplified Nevada Native Youth or Annie, we do college outreach and career outreach for Native students in Nevada. And honestly, I'm hoping it is useful for Natives all over the country. But so far, we featured about maybe five to eight colleges and universities from around the country, from TCUs to universities to community colleges, and it's going really well. If you have any friends or youth who you think may be interested, please greet them to our YouTube page, which is at Amplified Nevada Native Youth, our same name that we have right here. And there you'll find all our past videos from Boise State, UNR, UNLV, Haskell, a bunch of colleges. So that's where all our stuff is easily accessible. And also don't forget to share our social media. We have an Instagram now. We're trying to get that up off the ground. So feel free to follow our Instagram at Amplified Natives. And then, yeah, we'll get into it for this week. We'll start with our introductions for this week. So my name is Avery Wyatt. I'm your co-host for today, along with Ferdinand Romero. And so I'll do myself a little bit first. So I'm a student at the University of Nevada, Reno. I'm a senior studying public health and political science. And even though that's not my field right here today, I do have a very huge interest in Native Ed. So I have a passion for helping our Native youth just be able to succeed in college and also just make sure that they are able to just have a comfortable life. And Ferdinand, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good evening, and it's so good to be back. We took a little break last week. We hope that you enjoyed the bloopers.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully for this week. I do want to welcome you to the Annie Project. I'm so excited and thrilled that Avery is continually seeking awesome presenters and schools for you to be able to see. I am with the Nevada Department of Education and a Southern Paiute woman enrolled with the Kaibe Band of Paiutes and also from Wapa Band of Paiutes. So I want to welcome you, and back to Avery.
Cool, thanks, Medina. And so now we'll get into the introduction of our amazing guest that we have today from Western Nevada College. And so first we'll start off with Temple Campana. So Temple is a scholarship and student employment coordinator at Western Nevada College. And then we also have Abby Bennett, Abby's Washu, Numu, and Yalumni Yokut. And so Temple, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Sure. Hi, thank you guys so much for having me. I'll talk more about my detailed background when I present, but I just wanted to thank you guys for inviting me to participate in this. I was very excited to join you and speak to you guys.
Cool, thank you. How about you, Abby? What do you got for us today? I think you're on mute, Abby, sorry.
Yeah, my traditional introduction would be Leke Abby Bennett, Degumdia Kelei. I was a student at WNC from 2016 through 2019, so 3 years. And this is my second year at UNR.
Cool. Yeah, thank you so much, Abby and Temple, for taking the time out of your day to be here with us today. And we know, Temple, you brought a presentation with us for today. She's going to tell us a little bit more about WNC. But before that, we'll talk a little bit about what's happening next week. So next week, same time, same place, we're going to be doing the Fort Lewis College. So we're going to be featuring Fort Lewis College. We're going to be having Raquel Thomas. She's going to be on our show. She'll talk about her experiences at Fort Lewis College, which is honestly very popular for natives in the state of Nevada. So feel free to tune in. And yeah, we'll get it started with Temple. Take it away, Temple.
All right. What I'm going to give you is more of an overview of Western Nevada College instead of the step-by-step nuts and bolts sort of thing. So I wanted to start out by sort of telling you a story of my background and how I eventually landed at TMCC myself. So my title there is Student Employment and Scholarship Coordinator. And I was born and raised in California, but my mother and my grandmother were born and raised in Northern Nevada. So I do have some roots here. And my mom was a single mom and raised me in California, and she didn't finish high school herself. And she became, she went to cosmetology school and became a hairdresser, and that's how she supported us. So when it came time for me to graduate high school and figure out what I wanted to do, I decided to apply for college. What that meant was I was what's called a first generation student. So I was the first one in my immediate family to pursue higher education. And that was a little nerve-wracking to navigate all of that myself. So what I originally started out doing was I applied to go to college in Chico, and I became a wildcat. And so when I went to Chico, I studied psychology, and I ended up with a minor in child development, and I utilized financial aid. And another thing that really helped me a lot was working on campus. So my on-campus jobs back then was, I was a TA, teacher's assistant for a psychology professor. And then for the majority of the time I was there, about 3 years, I was a student teacher at the Child Development Center, which I loved that job. It was fun. And then after I graduated from Chico, I worked for a couple of years in my field. But then I wanted more, and I wanted to go back and get more education so that I felt like I didn't have limited opportunities. And so I started to go to UNR for grad school, and I became part of the Wolfpack. And while I was there, I worked on my master's in counseling ed psych, and my focus was college student development. And while I was there, luckily, I was able to get a full-time state job. And as an employee of UNR, I worked at admissions a couple years as a financial aid advisor. And then once I finished my degree, I was a legit counselor finally, and I became the counselor for the TRIO Scholars Program. If you haven't heard of TRIO, maybe you've heard of Upward Bound, and TRIO is basically the college version of Upward Bound. And so what that enabled me to do was I was assisting first generation college students navigate the whole process that I had to do on my own. So it was a really full circle experience, and I loved that job. The other thing about getting my job on campus and working full time while going to grad school, it helped me because I got a fee waiver that paid for me to take 6 credits a semester. So the good news was I was able to complete my graduate work without taking out a bunch of student loans. But the bad news was it took me forever to finish my graduate program. I spent a total of 15 years at UNR, and that was finishing grad school and working. And one thing that happens in counseling sometimes is counseling is an amazing job, but sometimes there's burnout that can be common in that field. So after 15 years at UNR, I decided I needed a change, and an opportunity opened up at Western Nevada College, and I luckily got the job, and I became a wildcat again. So when I first started at the college, what I loved about it is that we were so little, and it was just beautiful. UNR is an amazing college as well, in my opinion, but it was huge. And during the time I was there, it kept getting bigger and bigger. I had started out working in some of the older, more historic buildings, and by the time I left 15 years later, I was in brand new buildings, and it grew and grew and grew. And sometimes that could be overwhelming, and part of the change that I was looking for was a little bit smaller of a campus to work for. I just snapped that picture of the tree last week walking in. I just thought it was so pretty. So we're a little college, but we have a big heart. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what being at a little college means. Being at a little college to me means that we have more of an opportunity to sort of feel like a family. We get really close. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes when you're with your closest family, you can be extra quirky. And so I have some pictures here to show off some of our quirky. We've got a physics professor up there with his hair all up in the air. There's a little snippet of our president of our college who accidentally sent out a message saying we were having a town hall meeting tomorrow, and he meant town hall, so he quickly corrected himself. Then in the meeting, we had a great laugh because he said, well, this is during COVID. Maybe it is a town hall meeting. There was a fancy executive, very important meeting, and our mascot just decided to help himself and take a seat and join. The guy on the right in the cape is our financial aid director, and it's not very common that you'll see a college financial aid director leaping around in a cape. There's a picture of some fellas playing cornhole, and those are our campus safety folks and security folks, keeping us nice and safe while keeping themselves entertained. There's a little basket for future Wildcats, which I love. So we have a child center on campus that has little ones from as young as 6 weeks old, and they get these welcome baskets with little future Wildcat mini clothes and whatnot. We celebrate our student employees a lot, and so the picture with the girls playing in front of the photo booth is during Student Employment Appreciation Week. We, I think, might have been the only college in Nevada that ended up going forward with a on-scheduled commencement, but we did it drive-through, and that was just a sign I thought was funny under the circumstances. And then another picture of one of our staff goofing around with the mascot. So what I like to say is that we are the fun size campus because we are itty bitty. So we're like a fun size candy bar where we're smaller, but just as good. So here's some fun size facts. So to give you an idea, we have about 3,500 students on our 3 campuses. Our main campus is in Carson, and then we have 2 smaller campuses in our more rural service areas in Fallon and Douglas. To give you an idea, TMCC has a little over 10,000 students. UNR has 22,000 students, so that just to put things in perspective. We have 5 buildings on our campus. That means there's lots of one-stop shopping in a couple of ways. So all of our student services folks are all in the same area. So if a student walks into financial aid and we realize, oh, you know what, it looks like you need to go change your degree, they can hop right next door into admissions and do that. Also, depending on what your program of study is, odds are almost all of your classes are going to be in the same general area in a building, which is super convenient. We graduate about 500 students a semester. Our graduation ceremonies are intimate, but a big celebration. And all of our college staff are involved. So we kind of shut down the school and everybody goes out and participates in our commencement, which I think is a wonderful way to all gather and celebrate our students together. Our class sizes average about 20 students. Of course, there's exceptions to that, but that's a pretty good ratio of students to their professors, which is nice. Our college is kind of set up so it's really easy to make connections. And often we see that the higher campus connection a student has, the higher success rate they're going to have. We also have a small cost, so we're affordable. The community colleges in Nevada are $107 a credit. The state college is about $160, and the universities are $224. And often you're paying for the exact same classes, especially if you're transferring. So think about that. Like a student taking English 101 at our school compared to taking it at UNR, they're going to save quite a bit of money. So now that I've talked about the little stuff, I'll move into more of the big stuff. So we have a lot of degree paths and options for our students. We do a lot of transfer work with our students, and people who were interested in transferring would focus on Associates of Art or Associates of Business or Associates of Science. And if they just don't really necessarily want a career path transfer degree and they want to just get a general studies associates, a lot of students choose that option. Then there's more career type degrees, which would fall under the Associate of Applied Science area. Some students who are maybe already working, but they just want to open more opportunities and better themselves for their current career, those students might go for a certificate of achievement or a certificate of preparation. And then, even though it only shows one bachelor's program, construction management, we just this fall launched our second new bachelor's program, which is organizational management. And that's really exciting. And we hope to grow a few more bachelor's programs. In the meantime, though, we do have collaborative programs where a student might start with education classes, and then we collaborate with UNR so they can slide right in and finish their education degree. We also do that with social work at UNR. And then likewise at Nevada State College, they help our students finish education degrees as well. So I mentioned professional and applied technology programs. These programs are taken off kind of like wildfire in our school and super popular. In case the little titles are small, these are things like machine tool, automotive, welding, criminal justice, construction, deaf studies, manufacturing, those kinds of things fall in this category. I'm glad that we still have our criminal justice, program. We used to have a police academy on our campus for years, and unfortunately we lost it due to budgetary reasons, but we're in the process of trying to get it back. So keep your fingers crossed for us. So I mentioned there's a lot of transfer prep, and I'm not going to read all of this to you, but I just wanted to show you the list of all of the different areas that we help students transfer. So some of these areas students can get an associate's degree in. Other of these areas we can prepare students so that whatever their associate's is transfers nicely into one of these areas for a 4-year degree. Nursing and allied health, I would say, is one of our most popular areas on our college. This year, we were voted #1 in the state for our nursing program, and we're super excited about that. It's a big deal. We also offer some other programs in the area, though. So we've got EMS, lab tech. Some students don't want to be a full-blown nurse, but they do want to be in that field, and they might want to get their CNA. And then we also have a program in phlebotomy that students do. And phlebotomy, in case you don't know, is blood drawing. I could never do that. So now we'll move into some of our financial resources. I am proud to say that for such a small college, this year we've awarded over $7 million out to our students. This is one of the slides that when I transferred my presentation from PowerPoint to Google Slides, this one got pretty wonky, and I tried to fix it with no luck. So just roll with me here. I think you still get the same information. So under the grants, the majority of our grants come from federal grants, which would be tied to the federal application for student aid. Those would be grants like Pell and the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. Then there's about an even split between our state grants, like Silver State Opportunity Grant, and then our campus also sets aside a lot of money that we can use for student grants. Some example are our Wildcat grants, WNC grants, and our Nevada Resident Awards. And then on the scholarship side, the biggest chunk comes from the state scholarship programs. That would be the Millennium. The Millennium program has been around for over 20 years now. You don't have to apply for that program. The information of your eligibility is sent directly from your high school upon your graduation to the treasurer. If you're eligible, the treasurer sends you a packet in the summer. You acknowledge your award, and then whatever school you enroll in, in all of the Nevada schools, will know that you're eligible and be able to award you your Millennium. A newer state program is the Nevada Promise Scholarship. This is only available at the 2-year or community colleges throughout Nevada. So if you're interested in that, you would want to go to the college that you're thinking about attending. So our Nevada Promise steps might not look identical to TMCC steps. So you want to go to the college and make sure what the application process is and all the steps involved for that one. The next biggest chunk is our campus foundation scholarships. We have one application. Our window for our application opens in October and closes in February. Sometimes we extend that, but you definitely want to pay attention to that time frame. We have one application that will look at your eligibility for 200 different scholarship programs. So we're really proud of that. Since I've worked at Western, which has been about 8.5 years now, I've seen our scholarship base quadruple. So we've got an excellent donor foundation going right now, and they're just rolling in the money. The other smaller slices of the pie would be like outside and private scholarships that students apply for. That would be things like maybe your parents' employer might have scholarship opportunities. Big companies like Coca-Cola, Walmart, things like that. You can find scholarships. Banks and credit unions offer them. Rotary, Elks Club, those kinds of things. And then we also have, for our Native students, a lot of those students utilize their tribal scholarships, BIA scholarships, and COBEL as well. So student employment, near and dear to my heart because that's part of what I do, but it's a really big deal at Western Nevada College. Most colleges have the majority of their money that they use for work study is federal money. Work study is a part of a student's financial aid award package, and work study allows students to earn money while they're going to school. Most of the jobs are on campus, but we can make agreements with approved sites like elementary schools or nonprofit organizations for students to work there. So what our college does is we also set aside state and college pockets of money to utilize for student work study. On the right, I just took a screenshot for you to give you an idea of what student jobs on our campus look like right now, to give you an idea. And the 75%. So recently I did a survey of our leadership executive team. So the presidents, the vice presidents, the directors, the deans. And out of all of those leadership, out of all of our leadership team, I was intrigued to learn that 75% of them had been student employees on their campuses when they were doing their undergraduate studies. So I want to point that out because getting connected with your campus in a work study position, you never know what direction that can take you and what doors that could open for you. So in case anybody is thinking, okay, I'm impressed, sign me up, what do we do? I'm just going to give you the 3 major offices that you would need to work with to get your ducks in a row to become a student at Western. So you would be working with admissions and records. That's where you would apply. You do that online. Our application fee is only $15. They help you figure out a degree program, and they help you establish your student portal, or what we call your MyWNC account. Your portal is where you sign up for classes, change classes, all of those kinds of things. You can make payments if you have to make payments through there. You can change your address, update information, all of that through that portal. In financial assistance, we help you obviously do the FAFSA, apply for financial aid. We help you figure out and navigate scholarships. And again, we help hook students up with student employment. Counseling and advisement, they are very important and critical because they help you pick the right classes. They help students navigate placement tests. Placement tests help us know what math and English courses are appropriate for you to start off in college. So that's really important. They also assist with career exploration. Their staff, they have a large student staff of trained peer mentors. A lot of times we understand that students would rather get information from other students. And so our peer mentor team is a huge part of our counseling team as well. And then counseling and advisement also does the orientation for our college. So let's say you get all your ducks in a row and you want a little bit more information about, well, what would your college be like? What would it feel like? What's Wildcat life like? I mentioned to Avery when I spoke to him earlier this week that I did another presentation, and my favorite question was, how do I know if a college is a good fit for me? How do I know the right college? So I wanted to make sure I included information to sort of give you a feel of what our life on our college is like. So a lot of our students hang out in all these cool places on campus. We've got an art gallery that I adore. They change the art regularly. Sometimes it's student art. Sometimes it's famous artists put their art in there. But it's beautiful to walk through the gallery. We have a performing arts program at our college that puts on Broadway productions that people, I believe, from almost every state have come to see. And the farthest I know of is people have come from Canada. So that's a big deal. We're really proud of them. We have hiking trails behind our campus. One is called the Planetary Walk. And there's one of the pictures shows, it's a little thing that has all these sculptures of every planet. That's kind of a fun walk. And then there's an actual hiking trail called the V&T Rail Trail. There's other areas on campus. There's an observatory where there's events there, but students can also go and operate these ginormous microscopes to see what's happening in the sky. And there's just a lot of places that students hang out. Then students also get involved with a lot of clubs and organizations. I've listed them there so you can see what those are about. A lot of students, anytime a student is interested in a club and they don't find what they're looking for, students can create their club. And they just go through the process with the student government and student life program to get a club set up. For example, the Nerd Herd. We are not fans as staff of that name, but the club named themselves. So I do want to explain what the Nerd Herd is. The Nerd Herd is a group of students that all came from homeschool environments. They didn't go to traditional high school, but they wanted to get a group together so that they felt like they had more support and a group with similar experience. So I thought that was pretty cool. The word syndicate club listed on there. They are more of like a poetry slam, that kind of a group. And so when I say that you can create groups and clubs, I remember when I was at UNR, I don't know if they still have it, but when I worked there, they had a taco eating club.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they still have it, but if they did, I think I would be a part of it.
It always cracked me up. It was one of my favorites. So a few other cool things on our campus. I spared you guys and didn't want to show you an actual cadaver. But within the last few years, we got a big grant that allowed us to build and open an actual cadaver lab. So I told you that nursing and health programs are a big deal on our campus. Well, now students actually work on actual cadavers. That's not a cadaver in the picture, that's a dummy, but we do have cadavers. I personally have never gone and visited that lab because I'm not in that line of work, and I think it would creep me out a little bit, but I do think it's very cool for students who want to go that direction. This year, we got a Tech Express mobile lab. So what we're able to do for some of our rural students in our service areas that are farther away is we get to drive out with an actual lab and make sure that they get a lot of hands-on actual authentic lab experience. So that's pretty cool. And then we also have a lot of really cool labs for our manufacturing, robotics, automotive programs. Those are fun to tour, and I have gone there because nothing scares me. They're like the cadavers might, but they're fun, and we just have such cool state-of-the-art equipment. So we're really excited about that. And then I mentioned that sometimes our gallery has student art, and this has always been one of my favorite pictures. It was painted, the picture in the middle down there was painted by one of our DACA students, and I just thought it was a really cool picture. So we also have a lot of additional support and resources on our campus. I said earlier, we have a big heart. So in all of these areas, you would find big heart folks ready to help you. Our academic coaching is a fancy way of saying tutoring. All of our tutoring services are free writing center support as well. We have support services for disabled students. Child Development Center, I mentioned earlier. Our fitness center is very popular. This year, we collaborated with some community organizations. We did a survey, and about 30% of our students that responded said that they had concerns about not being able to always have food on the table. So we were not okay with that. So we wanted to do something about it immediately. So we are building a food pantry right now and about to stock that up for students and people in the community even who might need help. We also partnered with the local hospital to open up some private lactation stations for mamas who are nursing their littles, and they wanted a special private space to do that. And I also wanted to give you guys some additional tips. Whoever's watching and wherever you're thinking about maybe going to college, this applies everywhere, not just Western. So you always want to pay attention to deadlines. Some deadlines can be soft, but more often than not, they're hard. So you want to make sure to stay on top of any deadline, whether it's a deadline to apply for aid, apply for admission. All of those deadlines are important. Apply for scholarships. And they're all different at every school. So that's, again, something you want to pay attention to. There's no such thing as a dumb question. You want to always ask for help early and often. I'm involved with students who have to appeal when they lose their financial aid. And one of the most common reasons they list that they had a bad semester or blew it really is because they didn't ask for help when they should have, or they didn't ask for help early enough. So I can't stress that enough. Academic advising, I did mention that earlier, but there's nothing worse than trying to figure it out on your own and then finding out that you took a class that you really didn't need or shouldn't have taken. And you don't want to waste your time or your money that way. So you definitely want to take advantage of the advising that we have. We also have at our college some transition courses to help students transition into college. The EPY is more of a student success-based course that's really popular, and students do really well in that class, I hope, because it's helping them be successful in college, right? And then our CPD class is more based on career development and career exploration for students who are pretty lost as far as they know they want to go to college, but they have no idea what they want to do or focus on. Another tip is never, ever pay to apply for any type of financial aid or scholarships. I would always recommend to try and find a link to the federal application through a college website, because you know that's going to be legit. There are websites out there where you can get your FAFSA done, but they charge you to do it. And you want to avoid that because it's free. So you want to be careful with that. Same with scholarships. You should never be paying to apply for scholarships, and also be leery if a scholarship application is wanting you to provide very personal information or photographs. I've seen that. That's weird. You want to avoid that. And then again, you always want to get connected, but that can mean something different for every single student. Some students might be really extroverted and gung-ho about being with clubs and organizations, but that might not be your jam. So again, working on campus might be another way where you connect in a more mellow way, but you're getting to know people at that college setting and you're just being connected.
Temple?
Yes.
I was going to ask Abby about these additional tips.
Yeah, I hope you do. Absolutely.
Bible for students to think about, Abby? No, they're not just at WNC or any post-secondary education.
Well, that really depends. I mean, you always want to look at your syllabus as soon as you get it and mark down everything. But that's hyper focused. I would say, in a more generalized term, it would be to focus hard, but remember that your mental health is important, and that your grades and the letter that you are given at the end of the semester does not equate your personal value.
I would totally agree with that.
Oh, yeah.
And that was really sort of the end of my overview of Western. You can take a picture of my contact information if you want. But I also wanted to mention that we do offer virtual appointments on our campus now. And that's been, well, we've done this before COVID, but these are very popular. So what a Book Me appointment is, if you've never heard of that, is you can go online, you can type, you can schedule your time that you want to be contacted back and explain what your question or questions are. And then we will call you back prepared to answer those questions for you. Mm-hmm. So it's nice, and it takes away from waiting in line or those kinds of things. Or if you don't feel like visiting campus, and especially during these times, those are helpful that way too. I encourage you to visit our website if you want more information. And again, I just wanted to thank you so much for having me. I will be here though for the whole program. So if there's questions for me later, I'll still be here.
Cool. Well, yeah, thank you, Temple, for being here with us today. That was a really great presentation. I'm glad you included tips at the end. And I also liked all your pictures and stuff like that. And I liked how you talked about like cadavers and stuff. But yeah, it sounds like a really cool campus. Sounds like a homey campus for students to go to. But yeah, overall, thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Now we'll get into some questions for Abby now. And so Abby, so I guess we just want to know, why was it WNC? Why did you choose WNC first over, say, like other colleges or universities?
Well, I was actually homeschooled, and when I got into my second year of high school, I felt like I was able to take advanced placement classes, AP classes. But if you look at the price of them online, they're about as much as if you went to UNR. So I decided that it would just be better for me to go to WNC. and get my associates because I knew I was probably going to go to UNR anyways. So that's why I chose WNC. And I was a full-time WNC student basically for those 3 years, and WNC and high school were kind of the same thing for me.
Mm-hmm. No, cool. I mean, like, yeah, that sounds like a lot of people do go on that path. And especially, I know we'll talk about this a little bit later, but a lot of students who do go to smaller colleges first do end up going to bigger colleges in the end. So, I mean, that's really good for you. And the next question we have is, so do you remember the process of applying to WNC? And did you have any struggles with that process, or were there any resources you sought out to help you out?
Well, I don't know how the general application process is, but at the time, what they were doing for Jumpstart students, which was the program that I was in, you got a computer prompt that was telling you to write an argumentative essay. And then you'd write this little prompt, this essay, and then you'd submit it to the computer, and then the computer would score you. And if you got above 6 out of 8 or 5 out of 8, you qualified for English 101, so then you could participate in the Jumpstart program. So that's kind of how I got in.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So, Abby, what is the work? I know it's a little bit more non-traditional for you to attend because you attended with the Jumpstart. But while you were on campus, was there a Native population that you were able to connect with?
A population of maybe 4, including me. I know one person, I transferred with him to UNR in the same year. And I met a woman that was pursuing nursing, and I think that was about it. I might have met one more person in passing, but that was it. There's not any really representation on campus, at least last time I was there. There were no clubs, but I see in the comments that they might be trying to do that, which is great. There just really wasn't anything. There were no resources or a special advisor or anything like that. So you didn't really meet other natives and make other native friends. I met him by chance.
Yeah, I know they've been trying to start up an indigenous group for quite a while. So I know Sylvia's the one asked or provided that information for us, and I know she's really gung-ho at making sure that there's a Native, presence on campus.
Yeah, we have, I know, 2% of our student population and 2% of our staff are identify as Native.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And yeah, I mean, that's one huge challenge that you just mentioned, Abby, is that honestly, our presence on campuses, even bigger campuses, are often low. Like, I mean, you often see numbers that we do have, like say 2%, or we have like 1,000 Native students at a huge university or something like that. But even then, we don't really see each other much, and so that could be a big challenge in school. But so I guess what was your biggest challenge at WNC, or even at UNR too, or over your whole college career? So what was your biggest challenge, and how did you overcome it?
I think that brings me back to the very beginning on like my advice. I have a lot of perfectionism in me. So I had to learn how to still be able to work hard and put in that effort, and then disconnect it from my personal worth, because when I was letting it drag down how I felt, I was doing worse in school. So for me, my biggest challenge was learning to be okay with failing and not taking it as a sign that I am a failure, but this is something that I need to work on in my class and focus on. And that's something that I struggled with for a long time, until probably my first semester at UNR.
Wow, I wish I was you when I was that age.
No, that doesn't mean I'm perfect.
Yeah.
It's still something that I work on, but I think that's the biggest thing, because there's so much pressure as a first gen student, as you know, your family has a lot of expectations because they're putting you through school a lot of the times, or they're supporting you. You have family expectations, you have your own personal expectations, and it's just a lot of times it can feel isolating, and that, you know, and that I'm sure everyone's felt that. And it's just learning to cope with that and to be able to carry on and know that it's not you, and it's something that everyone struggles with.
Right. And I know, you know, there's a transfer process. What does that transfer process look like, coming from WNC to UNR?
To be honest, my transfer process was kind of rocky because I was a homeschool high school student, and when I was there, wasn't a lot of support for that. And I didn't really have anyone to help me navigate it. One of the UNR counselors told me, no, you're not going to apply as a transfer student. You're going to apply as a regular high school student. You know, yes, you have an associate's, but this is how we consider you. And that was a big gap for me. I still managed to make it, but you know, it was a little rocky. But from what I understand, it was a lot easier for other people who weren't in that small niche.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a really interesting. I never really heard about that or thought about that too, especially for homeschooled students. But I'm glad you brought that up though, because I mean, there's bound to be another native homeschool student out there who benefits from this. So yeah, thank you for talking about that.
Yeah, and the struggle that even comes with it, I wouldn't even have thought that. You know, you're a student at WNC, but you're still a high school student with the Jump Start program.
Yeah, and none of my family members, my parents, they both they went to high school and then went to a regular university, or tried to, and that was their path. Jumpstart wasn't around when my dad was going to Carson High and things like that. So it's been the first, and my mom is trying to make my brother do it, and I will probably be used as a counselor for free.
And Abby, I know we've talked before, like in our meeting prior to this, but you mentioned like some of the food on campus. But I want to know, is there, or actually, Temple, you can answer this too. But what are the food options that like on campus, or even around campus for students who may be on campus all day, or just some that are looking to get something to eat near campus?
My first piece of advice, and this is my most important one: avoid the vending machine in Cedar Building because it jams up all the time. I can't tell you how much money I've lost to that machine. I actually worked in the Wildcat Cafe for a couple of months, and it gets very busy very fast. And, you know, when I first went to WNC, it was pretty much frozen deep fried food. But when I was leaving, they actually made a salad bar. And one of the chefs, I can't remember her name right now, she was pushing for more homemade food and less deep fried food. Yeah, Sonia. Yeah, I love her.
Abby, I was going to ask you if you were a student worker because your name was familiar to me.
I was for a very short period of time. They didn't really have a lot of spaces for me, like in shifts on the club. So I kind of stopped doing that. And I actually did scholarship work on the campus instead. I worked for the NASA program that they had with Dr. Tattersall.
Gotcha.
So that's how I did my student work.
Yeah, we have one main cafe on campus, and they had taken over a few years, and it was a nice change because the first cafe, some of the food was good, but it was almost more like sports bar-ish type food. Whereas now they're more focused on healthier options, and it's been a good change. Unfortunately, they're struggling with all of the remote, the loss of business because of COVID. We're still open, but we don't have a ton of student traffic right now, but they're doing everything they can to stay open. And they also set up a site in the library where it's like a little grab and go area where students can get food. And then there is also other vending stations in the main buildings. I have heard the same thing though about Cedar.
Yeah, Cedar is awful. Bristlecone is okay. No, I remember, Sonia, I came to school sick one day, and it was like the day before my finals, and Sonia was like, "Oh, you're sick? I have some garlic soup. Here you go." You know, it's garlic and spinach soup. She's
Well, that
very
kind
sweet.
of goes back to what Temple was saying about family, so that's great. So what advice would you give us for us to share with students who are listening right now who are potential students of going to college?
Are you asking Abby?
Abby.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't know. I'd say a lot of what you learn is from people that are already there. So if you can find a discussion forum of students that go there, like on Reddit or something. Both of my cousins are at UNR, so I learned a lot of inside things about UNR from them. So I'd say make connections with people that are on campus all the time if you can. I know Reddit and other student forums are a good place for that, just to kind of get the feel of what's going on and what are some expectations. And always ask questions, I'd say, because there's no harm in a question, whether it's stupid or not.
And how, the advice you would give to a student going to WNC, Abby?
I'd say talk with your professors, because a lot of the professors are very personable and they really do love their jobs. That's something that I always liked. Like the physics professor you were showing earlier, Dr. Herring, he would always go and hang out in the libraries on like Tuesdays and Thursdays, and he'd be like, I don't do office hours because I don't like them, so just come hang out with me in the library. And then there'd be some of the calculus professors there, and Mr. Aragati is very sweet. And Dr. B, she's my favorite. Just I'd say talk with professors and get to know your professors, because a lot of opportunities outside of your classes will also form if you show that you're willing to put in that effort and work with them, I'd say.
Yeah, thanks, Abby. But I guess one other thing I have for our native students who are out there listening right now too is, so Abby, what are you most thankful about your college experience at WNC?
I would say I am most thankful for my biology professors. Dr. B taught me a lot. I should preface this. I am a microbiology and immunology major here in UNR. And I learned a lot about my degree and where I wanted to go with it because of Dr. B and Dr. Tattersall. Because I did the INBRE program that they have over there at WNC in the summer. And after that, Dr. Tattersall, she asked me if I wanted to work on this weather balloon project with her for NASA. And then I did that for a year. And we did this cool experiment where I did this section. We sent bacteria into the atmosphere, actually, on a weather balloon. And I got to go to DC. And that was because I made those connections with my professors and I was able to go experience those things. So that brings me back to just talk to your professors and get to know them, because you never know what's going to happen.
Very, very true. Very true.
Yeah, I know that's honestly one thing that we've heard from a lot of the students that we've had on here is that you should talk with your professors. Like, don't be shy. Like, I know natives were always shy. Like, go through high school, elementary school, we're always shy. So, but I mean, just breaking out of that bubble and answering a question can make things 100% more comfortable with professors and teachers and stuff like that. But yeah, thank you, Temple and Abby. Oh no, you're good, Abby. Keep going.
Oh no, I wasn't gonna say anything.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Abby and Temple, for being here today. Thank you for all your tips and everything to help out students who may be considering WNC or honestly, these tips help out with any colleges too.
Yes.
But yeah, thanks again. But we're going to move on now to our online questions section. So we have a couple of questions from our viewers. And our first one is, this one will be for Temple. So do you know if your institution or WNC, do they have partnerships with any tribal colleges?
We do, as I don't know necessarily tribal colleges, but we
Mm-hmm.
do have, and I wouldn't necessarily call it a partnership, but I happen to be the liaison that I work with a lot of the tribal agencies for funding sources for students.
Mm-hmm.
So I process those tribal scholarship checks and those kinds of things and fill out the need forms for people and things like that. But partnerships
Mm-hmm.
with an actual college, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And this one's another question too. This one can be for Temple. So how does your institution support tribal students and their needs other than academic? So like cultural or spiritual, do you know anything about that? Or even Sylvia, maybe if you would like to comment, I see you active in the comments too.
Just
Yeah, Temple, do you know of any cultural or spiritual things that are going on?
we definitely do cultural heritage celebrations, recognitions. I mentioned the art gallery, and sometimes our art gallery will feature either tribal art or artists. We really want to increase our Native American enrollment. We really do. It's actually an initiative that we've talked a lot about. We have 23% of our student population are Latino, and we have a cohort for them, and they have a ton of support. And our dream would be, and I see Sylvia's comment, our dream would be to eventually grow the same thing for Native students. But in order to do that, we need to build our enrollment up. So it's on our radar. Mm-hmm. It's something important to us, and it's in the works.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, a pandemic hits right when we're getting that ball rolling. So,
yeah.
So I that's that'll be great, because I know Abby sounded like, support was needed, or 3 to 4 people on campus that she could see, and just someone that's coming from homeschool to a college environment. I mean, that would be awesome. And I like Dwayne's question about the partnerships with any TCUs. If there's, students go back and forth. Sometimes I know at Haskell, for instance, they would come back to WNCs or, some of the TMCCs to finish off their schools. So, and Sylvia's, responding about, trying to create a pilot program for Native students that mirrors the Latino cohort. Mm-hmm. That would be amazing. You can totally, get buy-in from the tribes to send their students to WNC. If our colleges in our state of Nevada, if that was to be.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if any of you happen to know Lori Pasqua, but I used to collaborate with her a lot, and every year I would help her do the orientation for a group of Native students that she'd bring to campus. And unfortunately, she recently passed. Mm-hmm. So we haven't been able to continue that, but I hope it comes back.
Right. Well, that's great.
Yeah, feel free to, honestly, Temple, you can stay in contact with us. Like, we know a lot of natives who you can potentially get in contact with too, to help you out with just like the Native presence on campus, and maybe even give you tips on because like we've seen colleges around the country, what they do for Native students. So even if you want tips on what to do or just how to help out on campus, feel free to reach out to us.
And we have, I mentioned that 2% of our staff are Native. So there might be a lot of students on campus who don't know that they necessarily are talking to somebody who might have more understanding. And again, that's where there's no funny questions comes in. We have somebody in our admissions and records office who is tribal affiliated. And now we also just have a recent hire in our business office, cashier's office. So that's great. They're there.
Cool,
we just got to help you find them sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like WNC's at the starting position, but heading in the right direction. Hopefully in the future, there's a lot more Native students. And then hopefully I see Sylvia's plans that she's doing. And thank you, Sylvia, for working hard for Native students. Thank you, Temple. And thank you, Abby, for being with us today, sharing your experiences. I know this is very beneficial for students, maybe even considering WNC, or even, like I said, considering a community college or a smaller college overall. So thank you all for being here with us today.
Thank you so much.
WNC is located in a very beautiful little tiny town and has lots to eat and lots to do here.
Yep. We just went on a hike actually last week. We went to the what was it called, Abby?
The Kings Canyon Waterfall Trail.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's right near WNC. It's right. I mean, it's a beautiful campus. So if you're thinking about going to WNC, reach out to Temple. Feel free to, if you missed our info, feel free to look at our YouTube page and go back to where it was. It was about around 30 minutes on the broadcast. So if you need more info on WNC, feel free to go back there, or we can also post it for you. So feel free to reach out to us. And yeah, thank you, Abby, and Temple for being here today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, have a good night, everybody. And so, yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in today. Thank you for another cool episode. We love to highlight these smaller colleges, especially because like Abby and like a lot of Native students, they do start off at these colleges, end up going to universities after. And so you save money. And I mean, it's honestly a good way to go if you maybe had some trouble in high school and you're just wanting to start off new. So yeah, research these smaller colleges. We'll be posting more smaller colleges like this. And don't forget to tune in next week. We'll be featuring Fort Lewis College, which is in Colorado. And so for all y'all who like the cold, I like obviously videos of deer on their campus. Yeah, feel free to come back next week and tune in. And thank you all for coming today.
Yeah, thank you. You know, we heard $107 credit per credit. Awesome. Scholarships galore. You know, there's a Tech Express that is cruising around all over the place. There's hiking trails. There's a lot of great stuff happening at WNC. So please check out their website and we'll tune in next week. See you later.
Cool. See you later, everybody. Have a safe Halloween. If you're going out, please be safe.
Happy Nevada Day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Happy Nevada Day, too.
Bye-bye.